Maybe. Okay, the meeting is being recorded and a audio and or video recording will be put on our website. If you have problems hearing us, you may not be able to hear all of the conversation in the room, but if you hear problems hearing us that are presenting the items, or when we get to the bike ped plan, if you have problems hearing those presenters, please put something in the chat box and let us know. Attendees and panelists, we cannot hear you right now because of the way we have to do our audio. So at the time that we have public comments, please raise your hand, put something in the chat box, something in the Q&A, let us know you have something to say. When we get ready to do the bike ped presentation, we will switch the audio out. So when we get to that, Bill will do an introduction and then it'll take a minute to get that switched over. There will be 2 opportunities for public comments on the agenda. And joining us remotely today, we have the consultants from Gresham Smith and also IBI, which will be doing the bike ped plan presentation. Elizabeth Watkins from Federal Highway, David Jones from Tri-City Airport, and then Susan Doran, who's MPO staff. So since we have a remote attendees, we will conduct a roll call for attendance and for each vote. So the roll call is Chairman Paul Montgomery.
Here.
Vice Chair Jimmy Adkins.
Present.
Rhonda Sawyer.
Present.
Chase Milner.
Present.
Corey Osborne.
Present.
Amber Torbett. Okay, the only representative we do not have is Churchill, Mount Carmel, Hawkins County, so we do have a quorum present.
Okay, thank you, Leslie. And she's already gone over the protocol for this meeting. At this time, we'll open up for public comment. Anyone has a comment pertaining to the agenda item, you have 5 minutes to speak at this time. Anyone online wish to speak? Okay, seeing no one has a desire to speak, we have for us the August 5th, 2021 minutes, and I will entertain a motion for approval.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
So moved for approval, is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any questions? Leslie, will you call the roll, please?
Chairman Paul Montgomery,
Yes.
Vice Chair Jimmy Adkins,
Aye.
Rhonda Sawyer,
Aye.
Chase Milner,
Aye.
Corey Osborne,
Aye.
Amber Torbett.
Okay, I first thank you all. The minutes are approved. Moving to our next item, it's the amendment number 1. And Bill Albright will present to us this time.
Thank you, Paul. Amendment number 1 to the fiscal year 2021 Unified Plan Work Program. Work program, of course, is the outline of all the work that we do over the course of a year or two. Has a lot of budget information in there, has a lot of funding and expense information, and that's really what we're dealing with today. And this issue is a budget change or budget issue. Really not doing any change in the scope of work or any text changes, just basically the budget tables to get some things straightened out. The best I can explain it to you is we were working on the 2021 work program way back probably a couple of years ago. We established a budget for a long range plan. We don't really know exactly what's going to cost us with the consultant because we always hire a consultant to do that. The TDOT suggests that we hire consultants, so pretty much every MPO does it that way. A couple of years ago, we set the budget for the long-range plan expenses, and that includes staff time as well. And also, we set the budget in general for all the different things that we do, and it is an estimate. So we expect to come back, and when we said that we expect to come back and make some adjustments to the budget after we find out exactly what it's going to cost us to do the long-range plan, because at that time, we really didn't know, and plus some other expenses that goes along with that. And so what we have to do is come back, and what we're doing today is coming back and adjusting the budget. And let me just say this: we're not moving. Those who know a little bit more about how the ins and outs of work program, we're not moving money from one task to the next. We're really just adding money to each task that's coming from our reserve account. So we have our rainy day fund, if you want to call it, our reserve funds. PL funds that we can use to add in later on, or maybe do a study or something like that. So again, we're not changing, we're not moving money around in the tasks. We're just adding funds to each tasks that we need to, plus the long-range plan, task F, I think in this year, current work program, to pay for the long-range plan and pay for the extra expenses. We do have a lot of reserve funds. We accrue this for this very purpose to pay for a long-range plan, which is pretty expensive. But we do that every year over a course of about 5 years to have the money available. We still don't know exactly what it's going to cost, but in general, we have an idea. So what we're doing, we're dipping into our PO reserve funds to cover these expenses, and we're adding $52,000 reserve funds for the task, administrative task. And that's, again, a lot of that has to do with the long-range plan. There's a match of $13,000 that goes with that. It's currently available in the City of Kingsport's accounts. We checked that out. And the task B is we're adding $4,000 in federal and $1,000. And again, that's at 20% match. $1,000 in matching funds transferred from the reserve for the data collection process, some of which does go in the long-range plan. And then last but not least is the long-range plan task itself, which is F, task F. It's $44,000 in the federal PO funds transferred in or put in the, I call it the checking account, and 11,000 in matching funds. So going back to that concept, basically we have this savings account. We just didn't have enough money in the checking account to pay for the long range plan. So we just moved money over from one account to the other. Basically, that's what we're doing. It's a little bit complicated, but that allows us to write the checks and finish this year out budget wise, which ends September 30th, and also pay our consultants. So that's basically what we're doing. And best I can explain it. Any questions or comments about that? We're just, again, we're using our reserve funds that we knew we probably would have to over the course of a year or two, and putting it in the task that pays for these expenses.
Amber?
Funny, we do know about the question. I guess I'm looking at page 28, really focusing on the for this fiscal year. So Cascade, say, is program administration, and then it with table 2 after amendment. Trying to compare your highlighted. So
Which task is it? I'm sorry.
So basically, we just need to look at Cascade is for 2021, right? So we have Cascade being program administration, 133,600.
Correct.
And then, right? Is that what
That is
we're
correct.
really just asking to vote on? And then
That's correct.
task B is data collection and all that. So we're really focusing on page 32. And that's 35,000. Right?
Actually, it's only $4,000 in federal on task B. Because if you look at before, it's 24,000, and after it's 28,000, so it's 4,000. We just came up a little short in that particular task, so.
The first sheet, that page 28, the first sheet is the before, that's what it is now.
Yeah.
And then the next sheet would be what it's changed to, and that's for task A, and then the same thing for
Yeah.
the data and then the long range.
Yeah.
After,
Yeah.
Mhm.
and then we just really need to focus on fiscal year 2021.
Right.
So I'm just trying to, what happened, where's the 35? I'm just trying to compare apples.
What page are you on now?
She's comparing it to the table.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
And then task F is the long range plan, and we're really focusing in on page 52 after for 2021. So I'm
That's right.
assuming I'm looking at 205. That's where I'm lost. My numbers. aren't the same.
Well, let's see. Let's look at the previous page on page 51. We've got
Makes
100.
sense for task A.
Yeah, we got
There's just so many
task F, the one that we were really focusing on, had $120,000 in there, now it has 164. It's 44, we added $44,000. And then if you look at the matching amount of 30,000, it's now 41. That's your 20% match of 11,000. So in the entire amount's $125,000, 100 in federal, 25 in local. That's your 20% match. So it took $100,000 to clean everything up and get the money to there to cover our expenses. A lot of which is the long range plan.
Yeah, I think I'm good.
And the numbers all the way on the right-hand side includes Virginia and everything. This is just changing Tennessee numbers.
Yeah, this is Tennessee. We're not dealing with any Virginia money.
Yeah,
Jimmy.
okay.
I knew he was gonna say that.
Any other questions?
I do have a question. So you kind of call this the rainy day fund. So these are, how old are fiscal year PL funds? Have these kind of recurring this?
Not that long because it's first in, first out type accounting. You spend the old money first. This is fairly new money. I'd say a year, maybe 2 years. Yeah.
We don't do like Virginia. Yeah, we do an annual contract in Virginia and deobligating funds or all that stuff. We don't do that.
They
It's
just carry it.
whatever we don't use is carried over in Tennessee.
There are MPOs that have hundreds of, like $400,000 or $500,000 of reserve funds. Ours was about 3. So we used
300,000?
yeah, maybe a little bit less. So.
That was 3 or 4. I can't remember. We just looked at it not too long
Yeah, I
ago.
just want to look at it. But we still got some left even after this.
And those are flowed through TDOT?
Yes.
Yes. And we try to build this reserve up to one particular purpose is to pay for the long range plan. It's $214,000 what it cost us. And we have to have that money available every 5th year.
Any other questions? I'll entertain a motion if not. To approve? Is there a second? It's been moved and second that the amendment be approved. May I have roll call, please?
Yes. And that was a motion by Rhonda and second by Amber.
Right.
Susan's doing minutes, so she can hear us okay. So Chairman Paul Montgomery,
Aye.
Vice Chair Jimmy Adkins,
Aye.
Rhonda Sawyer, Chase Milner, Corey Osborne,
Aye.
Amber Torbett.
Motion passes 5-0. Next item is amendment number 7, and Leslie Phillips will present this one to us.
Okay, this is a tip amendment for the Main Street project. This will be tip amendment number 7 for the fiscal year 20 through 23 tip. And basically, it's as the city's gotten further along in this process, there was a need for more funds, especially for the construction phase. So this is just adding more funds. It's adding some extra design funds and adding construction funds. And also, we got $611,000 in CRISA funds, which is COVID relief funds. And so it's also programming that $611,000 into this project. Those funds that are through TDOT have to be obligated by the end of December 2022. So this is the quickest project we think they can be obligated in a timely manner. So this tip amendment is just adding funds, some more funds for design, adding some construction funds, and also programming those COVID relief funds that we have received through TDOT. Are there any questions?
Seeing no questions, I have a motion to approve amendment number 7. Is there a second? It's been moved and second that we adopt the amendment number 7. And at this time, I will have roll call. And if you would you turn your nameplates around so I can recognize you, please, for Dean? Thank you. Okay,
Amber made that motion, correct?
yes.
And Chase was second.
Chase may say.
Okay, and then Chairman Paul Montgomery,
Aye.
Vice Chair Jimmy Atkins,
Aye.
Rhonda Sawyer,
Oh,
Chase Milner,
Aye.
Corey Osborne,
Aye.
and Amber Torbett.
The amendment number 7 passes 5-0. Next item, we have a MTO bicycle and pedestrian plan. And at this time, I'm calling on Bill Albright and the consultants to make a presentation.
Okay, Bill is going to do a little intro and then as soon as he's done, give us a minute to switch over the audio and we'll get to the consultants.
Yeah, put in your agenda packet sort of a staff version of the executive summary. And of course, consultants have done the same thing, but this just to introduce them and those that hadn't been around with this for a while. It's just 2-3 pages that describes basically, the scope of work, the schedule, the goals and objectives and so forth. But Gresham Smith has done a good job on this plan and project, and we're not quite finished. We've had some folks ask for a little bit more time to review the plan, and that's good. That's okay. I'll turn this over here in just a minute to folks there at Gresham. I will say this, that we're not going to vote on this today. We're not going to take action because of the fact that we need a little bit more time to look at it, make some edits and comments. And so it may be as long as November the 4th. That's our next meeting, right, Leslie?
First week in November.
First week in November. So we may not approve it, adopt it until the first week of November. And it does have to be adopted. I checked on that. There's some plans that you just sort of accept it and affirm it. You don't really make an official resolution and adopt it. But because this is funded by TDOT entirely, we didn't put any money into it ourselves. It's 100% state funds. They do want us to vote on it to adopt it officially. So we'll come back first week of November or before then if we get a chance and put it up for adoption. And so that's kind of where we are. We have Casey Salvatore. I'm sorry if I mispronounced the name. Sandy Lanes Glafani and Jason Brady with Gresham Smith. I think Casey's going to handle most of it, but they're going to present the draft plan as is at the moment.
Patrick Osborne with IBI.
Patrick Osborne with IBI is also going to be there to present, and we look forward to hearing them. Again, this isn't a final draft, but it's not finished yet today. There's an opportunity for more, edits if necessary. We have sent this out to a lot of folks, and look forward to hearing back. We haven't already done that. What they basically did was they identified the weaknesses in our program, in the bike ped trails and sidewalks and stuff, and use that as a core foundation to make a recommendation. So I'll turn it over to Gresham at this time.
Okay, give us just a minute and Michael will let you know when it's ready.
I need you to quit sharing so that they can. All righty, guys, we should be good to move forward now.
All right, can you hear me?
Great.
Cool. I'm going to share my screen. All right, can you see the screen?
Yes, we can.
Awesome. So just give me 1 second here. Okay. So hi, everyone. Today I'll be presenting with you the Regional Bicycle and Pedestrian Plan for the Kingsport MTPO. I want everyone to know that questions are welcome during this presentation, and if you have one, please feel free to stop me and ask. To start, we will discuss project understanding, key milestones, the bicycle and pedestrian network updates, and finally, implementation. So let's get started with project understanding. Building on the region's strong commitment to planning and transportation options, the purpose of the Bicycle and Pedestrian Plan is to guide the development of bicycle and pedestrian improvements over the next 20 years throughout the Kingsport metropolitan area. We started the plan with the end in mind. With that, we identified key opportunities and challenges that we then provided draft recommendations for. The combination of the opportunities and challenges and draft recommendations are what led to the formation of the final plan. So next I'll move on to visions, goals, and objectives. The main vision of the plan is to establish a comprehensive bikeway and pedestrian network that is suitable for users of all ages and abilities. A network such as this enables jurisdictions to expand multimodal connectivity, improve safety, enhance mobility, and promote a higher quality of life. The vision is supported by 4 goals, each with associated objectives. These goals will guide the development and prioritization of the plan's recommendations. The plan will support livability through the region through the provision of meaningful and accessible active transportation choices. Expanded transportation choices can support improved user safety, reduce automobile demand, especially for short trips, and generally enliven streets by making them accessible for all users. The plan will also promote a more sustainable Kingsport, seeking improvement options that avoid adverse impacts to key resources and promoting transportation modes that can reduce carbon emissions. The plan will also support the region's prosperity going forward, as investments will be targeted to keep growth in redevelopment areas. The planning process will also emphasize holistic collaboration among citizens, stakeholders, and the various communities within the region. Finally, the plan will improve the connectivity within and among the region's communities by connecting people to the places they want to go. We'll now move on to some key milestones. So to date, we've held 2 public workshops and conducted a field review. Public workshop number 1 collected public feedback on the priorities, goals, and asked for projects, whereas public workshop number 2 introduced the draft sidewalk, bikeway, and trail recommendations. The field review, which was conducted in February, looked at locations of high priority that could be candidate projects for cut sheets. Next, we'll talk about the bicycle and pedestrian network updates. So before I get started with the recommendations, I want to discuss the different facility types recommended in the plan. This plan presents 5 facility types. These facility types include shared use paths, sidewalks, bike lanes, paved shoulders, and shared lanes. Each are described further on the following slides. Shared use paths and side paths are designed for use by both pedestrians and bicyclists. Shared use paths and side paths are typically located within the road right-of-way or within an independent right-of-way. Shared use paths have become increasingly popular with the growing demand for walking and bicycling and can provide important connections for longer distance trips. An example of a shared use path would be the Kingsport Greenway. Bike lanes provide dedicated operating space for bicyclists. While bike lanes remain a good option for urban streets with moderate traffic volumes and speeds, creating more lateral distance between bicyclists and motor vehicles, either with buffers or physically separated facilities, is important for people of all ages and abilities. We then have paved shoulders. So paved shoulders are typical of highways and roadways in rural areas and provide safety benefits to minimize runoff the road crashes. While paved shoulders are not dedicated bikeways, paved shoulders provide important operating space. And lastly, we have shared lanes. So shared lanes and bike boulevards are lower volume, lower speed local streets that offer a safe and comfortable option for bicycling compared to major streets. Traditional shared lane treatments represent relatively low-cost improvements that reinforce local streets as safe and comfortable places to bicycle and discourage motor vehicle through traffic in neighborhoods. So now to get started with the plan recommendations. This plan is a culmination of recommendations from the 2012 Bicycle and Pedestrian Plan that hadn't been implemented, in addition to the Greenbelt expansion and recommendations we compiled. Located on this map are the existing bicycle facilities in the Kingsport metropolitan region. As you can see, there are some facilities located primarily in downtown Kingsport, but not much elsewhere. This map shows the bicycle recommendations for the Kingsport region. Our intent is to expand upon the existing network to develop a network that encompasses the entire region. In particular, we expand the number of paved shoulders throughout the region. This helps to meet the connectivity goal of establishing a regional bicycle and pedestrian network that connects people of all ages and abilities to places they want to go. The pedestrian network is composed of a primary and secondary network. The primary network focuses on state and federal aid roads that are functionally classified as arterials and major collectors. The secondary network is composed of local streets, or those streets classified as minor collectors and local roads. The secondary sidewalks are located within the existing jurisdictional boundaries, while the primary sidewalks are within the existing boundaries in the growth area. Located in this map are the existing sidewalks in yellow and the primary and secondary sidewalk recommendations in red and pink. Notice that the sidewalk recommendations expand upon the current network and promote walkability throughout the region. Here we've put together some community highlights that show the sidewalk and bicycle network in finer detail. I'll show each slide, give a brief explanation of what is being seen, and then ask for questions regarding the recommended network. So located on this slide is a fine scale representation of Scott County. You'll notice that the recommendations run primarily through Gate City and Weber City, with some bikeway recommendations located to the west of Weber City. The plan here was to connect Gate City and Weber City, as well as make connections between Tennessee and Virginia. Church Hill and Mount Carmel are highlighted on this slide. Most of the recommendations throughout this area include primary and secondary sidewalk recommendations. You'll also notice the paved shoulder along US 11 West and North Central Avenue. The next map provides an in-depth look at Kingsport. You'll notice that unlike the other two maps, the recommendations for Kingsport are scattered throughout the city. The proposed Greenbelt expansion located primarily in the downtown is highlighted in light green. Located on this map is Colonial Heights. Like Kingsport, Colonial Heights has an array of different bike and pedestrian recommendations. Most notable is the paved shoulder along Kendrick Creek Road, which spans throughout the entire community. This map shows the bike and pedestrian recommendations for US 11 West. It's important to note that the sections of US 11 West without a recommendation already have some sort of bicycling and pedestrian facility. The recommendations for US 11 West simply cover the remaining portions without bike and ped facilities. These recommendations assume slower speeds in the downtown areas, providing for shared lanes and bike lanes. Once you start leaving the city, it is assumed that speeds pick up and therefore paved shoulders are recommended for bicyclists. And then lastly, this map shows Bloomingdale. Most notably are the paved shoulders and sidewalks along Bloomingdale Road and State Route 93. So let's move on to implementation. Local jurisdictions can use policy and regulatory tools to improve walking and bicycling in their communities, notably zoning ordinances, subdivision regulations, and complete street policies. It should be noted that the MTPO does not have direct authority or influence over policy and regulatory decisions at the local level. These decisions are made solely at the discretion of the elected representative of each community. Complete Streets policies are an increasingly effective strategy to ensure that the needs of pedestrians and bicyclists are incorporated into all transportation planning, design, operation, and maintenance decisions. The goal of a complete street policy is to provide a transportation system that meets the needs of all users. The non-infrastructure programs described on this slide complement the plan's engineering improvements and gives Kingsport area residents and visitors the tools they need to safely and confidently walk and bike. A particular emphasis of the non-infrastructure recommendations is providing more information and opportunities to traditionally underrepresented communities in active transportation and recreation programs. And then lastly, project development ultimately depends on funding availability. While walking and bicycling facilities are typically included as part of larger public infrastructure and private development projects, increasingly communities are undertaking targeted bicycle and pedestrian improvements to retrofit commercial districts and neighborhoods for economic and community development purposes. Funding for these projects fall into two categories. You have the multimodal improvement projects and then state and federal transportation grant programs. These funding sources are located on this slide, and I know it's a little hard to see, but we've provided you with quite a few in the document. So now that I've covered the plan in its entirety, are there any questions or points of discussion? Sorry, hold on, let me bring the presentation back up. Alrighty, are there any points or questions?
Bill is asking, and just so people in the room know, my microphone's only one on right now. So I'll have to repeat your questions back to him, but Bill is asking if you could go over an example of one of the cut sheets.
Let's see here. I actually have the plan open for you guys. So let me scroll through. Okay. So we have 8 different cut sheets, and basically these are examples we pulled out. This particular one is West Jackson Street from Jones Street to, I'm going to get this wrong, Salone Street. And basically in these cut sheets, what we do is we show an example of what could be done to this roadway. We provide opportunities and constraints. We kind of give you here a detailed image of where it's located. And then we also provide the cost, which for this project would be $112,000. And so we've got 8 of those in the document.
And Casey, this is Patrick Osborne at IBI Placemaking. I'll just jump in to talk a little bit about the cut sheets as well. These 8 locations came primarily out of our field review session that we did back in February. I participated in that with Gresham, and Mr. Albright was kind enough to join us on a lot of those locations as well. But these 8 locations is based off of the number of places that we visited. Look to be the most attainable and kind of high priority locations that we would have for bicycle and pedestrian improvements within the area. So from there, we looked at potential alignments in GIS and Google Earth, and then from there built these section perspective renderings that showed what the potential proposed look would be for each of those streetscapes.
So Rhonda is asking, if y'all thought that the bike lane on 11W in Mount Carmel, Church Hill, met the criteria for a bike lane?
So according to our analysis that we do, it did meet the criteria. It would need to be looked at further if it were to go to some sort of engineering.
So Rhonda is now asking, does that mean that y'all think it's appropriate to have a bike lane there, or that you feel it's the appropriate size? You're talking about an existing lane, whether it's appropriate to be there.
So we didn't look into it in depth. Basically what we did is we followed a set of criteria, and if it met the criteria, it would be considered for a bike lane. But as I said, we would definitely need to look into it more. It could be that it would be more feasible to be a paved shoulder. But it's something we would have to look more in depth at.
Like, I think they're talking about proposals.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think, to be fair to Gresham, we didn't ask them to look at our existing facilities. Should existing facilities be removed? That was never.
Are they talking about the extending what's already there?
The question is, are y'all proposing to the extensions, the filling in the gaps, I guess is the way to say it, of what you're proposing to extend it in the same manner as what exists on the road today? Just extend it further, is that correct?
Yeah, we would be extending, whether it be a bike lane, paved shoulder, we would be extending it to the entirety of US 11 West.
Part of that is coming up because we've had multiple discussions over the past few years. Because Churchill had asked for some safety improvements for that. It's marked as a state bike route, but it's a 4-lane road, very fast traffic. So TDOT came back and said, well, we wouldn't put a bike facility on there. And we're like, well, you already have it marked as a state bike route. So we went back and forth with TDOT multimodal, but every time we get with somebody, they have turnover. So it's like we're starting over. We've had conversations and I've forwarded emails several times throughout the years about this issue. So that's why it's coming up.
Okay. Mr. Atkins has a question. How was the residential parking considered when proposing ideas, specifically on-street parking as the only available parking option for some homes in Gate City?
So I will be honest with you, we did not look into parking. As I said, if you were looking to implement some sort of bike lane or a paved shoulder or even just a shared lane, and that would be something that would have to be explored further. And I will say on a lot of the side streets and the smaller residential streets, we present shared lanes, and basically that's not developing a facility. It's just saying that a bicycle can ride on that street. So it would be able to most likely work with on-street parking.
Other questions?
Just, we have a couple of things.
The question is, are there any specific connections that are being proposed to the transit facilities that's within the study area?
So when we looked at the need for bike lanes and sidewalks, we did consider transit facilities. We have not made any specific connections, but we did take note that there were facilities in the area and that increased the chances of providing a facility.
Can you go to one of the maps? Oh.
I was just gonna ask if they can elaborate on how they did the cost estimation process.
Can you elaborate on how you did the cost estimation process?
Ooh, that's a difficult one for me. So we used the TDOT cost estimation tool, and then also for the cut sheets, I believe. And then for the particular projects, I think you can see my screen. We basically have an estimated cost associated. Hold on, let me go to one that actually shows the cost. So we have an estimated cost based on research and analysis. So for example, the first project we have here, and I can zoom in for you. The first project we have here is a paved shoulder. And so typically the cost of a paved shoulder per linear foot is $20. So we came in and we took that $20, we times it by the linear feet, and we came out with an estimated cost. Now we understand that this is just a base cost. It's probably not going to be what your actual cost will be, but it's a good measure of what the cost could be when you move forward with the project.
Can you put up one of the maps from the proposed?
Which you have a specific one?
Well,
She'd like for you to put up one of the proposed, is it the proposed bike or proposed ped maps?
Pet.
Proposed ped map.
Yeah, 1 second. Let me go back to the presentation. Oh, here we go.
So the pink are city limits, is that correct?
No, the reddish pink is city limits. The purple pink are the secondary network recommendations.
No, I meant the shaded areas, not. the-
Okay, then yeah, that's city limits.
Okay. Because unfortunately, in the state of Tennessee, counties and regional planning commissions outside their city limits cannot amend their regulations to require subdivision, subdivisions that have sidewalks
Mhm.
with the developer paying for it.
Okay.
Until that state law is changed, it kind of kills the deal as far as future construction of sidewalks for new development outside the city limits. Now, the cities can
Mhm.
require sidewalks in all new developments, but they cannot outside their city limits, unfortunately. But if this plan were to be adopted in the future, once it's all refined and we're all happy with it, then can it be subsequently adopted by the corresponding planning commissions? And then possibly, it's not going to change the state law, but it would be a good planning tool to, the state law needs to go away, but I'm looking for like, supporting, well, it's so and it's under zoning, not subregs, it's not, it's miscodified. But it's always been my pet peeve.
Amen.
But I feel like if we had more and more policies like complete streets and these plans that TDOT has paid for MPOs, if more and more of these plans get adopted and then gets adopted by all of the planning commissions within the boundary,
Mhm.
I feel like that would be good to move forward with our state legislature to do away with this paragraph in the state law and leave it up to local governments to decide where and when sidewalks are needed.
Definitely, and I believe this might be a question for Rhonda actually, but I believe that a county could come in and adopt this plan. And also, as I had mentioned earlier, it's up to the jurisdiction to adopt a complete streets plan, but I believe a county is able to do something like that. And if they were to adopt such plan, it might require that developing neighborhoods implement sidewalks.
Well, in theory, but we would have to get rid of a state law that would nullify everything you just said, unfortunately, outside the city limits.
That's just a guideline.
I mean, it could be a guideline. But again, if you don't have it on paper, it's never gonna happen.
Mhm.
I mean, so I guess I'm just making comments, not questions, but I wanted to refer to that map.
Because really, if you're inside the urban growth boundary, we all agreed back, whatever it was, 20-some years ago, that it's going to be urban. So yeah, let's,
Right,
at least
Yeah.
in that boundary, maybe
But-
there's a different level where you can't do it outside the urban boundary, but in the urban boundaries.
Well, there's urban growth and then it's planning,
yeah,
Right.
so.
But I'm just saying the cities and the county agreed this is going to be urban.
yeah,
When we
in
city,
theory, yeah.
really is what we said, it's going to be city, so
A
why
lot of
not
this
be
is on
built?
road right of way.
Oh, yeah, yeah, so, yeah, the primary stuff is definitely functionally classified, most of it's state routes
Okay.
that they're showing that's outside the city limits, so it's still doable,
So
Yeah.
for example, if this,
like 36.
like this.
Yeah.
Okay, so like, when this gets, just like it was before, if 36 or other state routes have these highlighted in the plan, then that's justification when we get funding or a TDOT project to then say, hey, it's in our plan. We really
can't
need
do
a
it.
sidewalk,
We can't do it if it's not a plan.
right? That's the only way the counties are gonna get anything pedestrian oriented outside the city limits. Unfortunately.
State law doesn't speak to bike lanes, is that true? Bike
No.
facilities, it just speaks to sidewalks
It-
in
it-
subdivisions.
It speaks, it says, Title 13.7.301, which is under the zoning Anyway, it says prerequisites to plan or ordinance requiring subdivider to install curbs, gutters, or sidewalks. Notwithstanding this part of the chapter to the contrary, no municipality or regional planning commission shall adopt any plan, ordinance, or rule which would require a subdivider whose proposed subdivision is outside the corporate city limits of any municipality located within the regional planning district to install curbs, gutters, or sidewalks unless both public water and sewage systems are to be made available within 18 months of the subdivider. Now, as far as curbs and gutters, county has had curb and gutter in their subreg standards since 1951. Yeah.
I didn't know that part was there.
Yeah, now we can't require sidewalks, but if the developer wants to put them in, we will gladly accept them in our right of way. We have several big subdivisions with sidewalks. And anyway, yeah, curb and gutter, counties have curb and gutter in there.
Well, like Green County, if the developer wanted to put a curb and gutter and a sidewalk in, they also the developer had to maintain it. Because a lot of counties, they sure didn't have a way to maintain concrete.
Well, we don't, but we just had to farm them out. We don't have that we do. But yeah, it's another good reason to do bonds and maintenance. But anyway, so that right there, this whole thing has been not upheld.
I think it could be adopted as just a guiding document,
Yeah,
not a,
regulatory.
yeah. And like we were talking about, that's mainly on state routes.
Yeah,
And if it's not, it's some kind of but you not adopting it and Bill adopting it, it can still be done. So somebody adopts it. But that would be good for the county to adopt just to be forward thinking.
oh yeah, whatever and the MPOs adopt or the cities, then I then wait and put it in my land use plan. And 2/3 of my work is done once Bristol and Kingsport MTPO does their part.
I'm sure you're having a rich conversation, but you both are facing each other. So you're not
Oh, I'm
facing-
sorry. Well, it's not a question. I'm sorry. It's more for, I'm sorry, it's more for the board when we do adopt it. I'm sorry.
But the important thing, remember, when you follow the plan. Anything here, that's what grant application,
Yeah,
first thing you do, ask, where's your plan?
right.
They won't go any further, they'll write checks.
We actually scored higher with this plan. Adopt the plan.
Okay.
I guess one comment I'll make real quick is I think it's a great document and definitely see the value and paying documents like this because across the mountain, they give us money for having something in a plan a lot more than it's not. And I know that I appreciate our good friend T-Dot paying for such an awesome document. From my personal perspective, Virginia perspective is, adopting this document is a sign of, hey, our brethren in Scott County, Gate City, Weber City, we support this. They take it, they're like, hey, we should do this. Use those numbers. The only recommendation I would make is to make sure you get feedback from the localities over there, final draft portion, and using the TDOT has a great estimating tool. So does VDOT as well. So please use VDOT's numbers when doing the cost estimates. Because when it comes to a locality thinking that they could do a really awesome project and they raise X amount of money, and they go to apply for something that's 3 times the cost of what was in the document. I don't want to have my name associated with approving a document that had a number 2 that they thought would be, gold. So I would just take that in consideration of giving up VDOT investment rules. And get feedback from our localities.
I would like to have it indicated that with an asterisk or something, that VDOT estimate tools have been used on that particular
Absolutely.
line.
So I don't know how much of that y'all heard, guys, but.
A little bit of it.
Yeah, but Mr. Atkins was saying that, you know, it's a good plan, it has value. He would like to see that to us that we make make sure that we get the feedback from the local jurisdictions on the Virginia projects, and then that we use the VDOT estimation tool as opposed to the TDOT estimation tool on the Virginia project, so that he can stand behind those numbers. And Rhonda also stated that on those items that are in your table are VDOT estimation tools versus TDOT, let's put a footnote to those so that we know all of them are TDOT estimation except for these are VDOT estimation. That sound, I'm getting the thumbs up. I accurately summarized that. So we are recording this if we need to go back to it.
We will definitely look into the VDOT estimation tool. I don't know if we can get access to it, but if we can definitely look into changing some of those numbers.
We'll work to make sure.
And Corey said that they would work to make sure you have what you need.
Okay.
There's no proposed to connect Mount Carmel and Churchill up there on Carter's Valley Road. Doesn't seem that there's a red line that connects. Carter's Valley is, you know, the upper,
So are you asking from a pedestrian or a bicycle standpoint?
there, it doesn't look like there's anything connected.
Well, we're looking at pedestrian right now. The map you're looking at is pedestrian. I'm just asking what you're wanting, what you're asking.
Is there any map connecting Mount Carmel and Churchill?
So on the map that you have in
This
front of you
location.
now, go further north.
Yeah. Oh, up here.
That road there, is there any
Okay.
recommendation for bike or ped connectivity along, was that State Route 347, 346?
There is for bicycle, but not pedestrian. It doesn't go fully for pedestrian. But as you can see, there's a paved shoulder proposed.
So there would not be any necessary right of way. Saying that this second place.
No, nobody said that. No.
It's kind of narrow.
Yeah, it's a planning level document as opposed to, you know, detailed engineering for sure. We have to know where we want it before we can go, and then each jurisdiction look at what, you know, this is that higher level. That particular route is a paved shoulder. So you'd be putting a paved shoulder on the road that vehicular, for vehicular use, and would have the side benefit of bicycles or peds, honestly, walking on it, riding on it, which is
Kind of like what 394 looks like now, or 11W. I mean, that would be a narrow driving right of way, but it looks like people run along 394 and 11W now. I would.
yeah, but with the difference being she's referring to a 2-lane road
Yeah.
currently, but
Right.
yes,
Okay.
maybe the road from Boones Creek to Jonesboro. I don't have that number right off the top of my head, but that's what we call a super 2-lane. Kind of maybe what this would look like if you did that. So yes, it would have right of way implications for sure.
I think TDOT did several of these all. How does it look?
What other, yeah.
I've got Johnson City, Kingsport, Bristol.
Knoxville, road there, right? Two separate. they're like a good place. Or-
I just have one more comment. The link that you gave me was great. I don't know if everyone else has had an opportunity. The link embedded in the plan didn't work, but when you sent me the full link, because it's really cool. I mean, you can zoom in and out and topo, and it was, I don't know if y'all have played around with it, but it,
On our website.
Yeah.
Interactive map.
yeah,
Yeah, that link's on the website.
so if you haven't explored that, it's pretty.
Casey, can you pull up the interactive map?
Yeah, give me a second.
I'm not sure if everybody here has seen it or not.
Can you see it?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, so if you zoom in, you can see essentially what we've got in the plan. It shows existing sidewalks, it shows proposed sidewalks, bike facilities, stuff like that. And yeah, you can just scroll through and look around.
Any other questions, guys?
I will say, they requested a deadline for comments. And I mean, I agree, that Bill and Casey will need to work out whatever deadline they're going to do it, for people to get comments back in and let everybody know.
So we're working back from you said a November, when, do you have a date yet for the meeting in November? So November 4th is the meeting, and so. Right, because we need to make sure that we program in enough time for any modifications and then getting it back out for everybody to look at prior to final adoption. So. And just so we're on the same page and we do the appropriate outreach, what, Jimmy, you specifically mentioned contacting the local jurisdictions. So what I'm hearing you say is you want the MPOs to directly contact the municipalities and the counties that make up Lenawisco and give them that date. We need any comments back to you by that date.
Yeah, I mean, I think that, we were given the plan, we passed along for the counties.
Right. And that's how we expected it to be distributed, but that's what I'm wanting to make sure is it sounded to me like you wanted the MPO staff to reach out directly to the communities. And so we can do that. I just want to make sure we meet the expectation.
Yeah, as long as.
Forward that to the planners.
I don't know if I do now, so I can select the Amber in there. Should be, yeah. I can go to see it.
Remember, I'm the old member.
You're hombre. Hombre.
Support from. So. Then, well, you don't have folks, but we had a lot of citizens. that-
Timing, if we had this during shutdown, we might have gotten a lot of participation questions. You know, people were looking for interaction, you know, and something cool to talk about. And then when we were all thrown in again, working closely and things opened up and everyone coming out of the woodwork, I just can't get caught up on stuff.
And I'll be the first one to say, explain these plans, and every time plan. There is.
Oh, yeah, it's a good tool, it's a good educational tool. And, you know, I've said for 20 some odd years, whatever the cities adopt, because I'm usually somewhat a part of it anyway, then I just incorporate it into my county plan. So that's another question, and then I'll be quiet. The data, like the digital GIS data, will that be given to your all's, to the city GIS?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, we provided it to the MPO, so if they decide to disperse it, they can.
Okay.
You don't have it.
So again, I will be requesting that data. Thank you.
No, thank you.
Oh, wait a minute. Let me get ahead of you. All right, we will not be able to hear y'all again. Okay, guys?
Sounds good. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
Thanks, appreciate it. Paul had to leave.
Okay. Chairman had to leave, so vice chair is taking over from here.
In lieu of, up the rest of the agenda real quick. Item number 7, federal and state partner updates, project updates. I did get confirmation, I believe, that unless somebody's popped on recently, that nobody's online to provide updates. We got some transit friends here. Anybody want to give some updates? Maybe somebody on a recent transit study?
Yeah, that's how recent transit study Walker, we got the final of that. And also on the planning stages, we have a new transit garage. So we're excited about that. We want to get our vehicles with our building. So we're finished with A&E on that. So I do not have a date as to when that will get started. And we just had our 4th annual driving rodeo, which is a competition. So that was exciting and always good. So, and good for employees. So that's what we're doing.
Fantastic.
I will say we have our rodeo next weekend, so we'll be doing that.
John is with NetTrans, if y'all don't know.
Sorry, did not know. And we just got approved for a mobility management grant that we will be doing. Getting a mobility manager, hopefully, come on board with us. So that's something new that we're working on as well.
And then a real quick update on, again, across the mountain, MEOC, Mountain Empire Older Citizens, and Mountain Empire Transit has successfully launched MetGo. I think some folks have been on some of the newsletters, publications about it, but it's MEOC was one of 2 transit providers in the state that received funds to do this a small fixed route plan program, I guess, based on an app, usage from an app developed specifically for the program. So that's been in existence for maybe a month or so. Transit is the way to go, even in rural USA. TDOT, anything from TDOT, my friends? Thanks.
I'm good.
2 thumbs
I
up.
got a question.
Shoot.
The park and ride lots, they finished, haven't been over that way in a while.
The park and ride lot there at 2358, the access management big project, it is complete. And then the That's the most recent official one, and then, of course, there's unofficial parking ride lots that are existent, so, yeah. Anybody needs to use those, you can reach out to our friends at VDOT. I think they got a really good website. Those identified.
They do, there's an interactive map, you can go on and see all the available
Yeah,
ones.
VDOT's got a very aggressive parking ride program. VDOT used to have one, they don't more, but
Bring that up next week.
we might do that.
Bring it up next week, Bill.
Commissioner. Quick.
I have one question, for TDOT and VDOT. In the bike and ped plan, as well as in the long-range transportation plan, there are recommendations for pedestrian or bicycling or on the long-range plan widening projects that affect different projects that are going on. How do we make sure that, specifically right now, I'm thinking there's a lot of bridge projects right now because of the gas tax increase that were earmarked. How do I make sure that DDOT understands and sees those plans? More so the non-ped, y'all have multimodal that's looking at that stuff. But I'm worried that the widening, for example, early out, it looks like the widening of 11W from 4 to 6 lanes in the area of the Hawkins County line is one of the highest ranking projects. How do I make sure that bridge, those two bridges get replaced with the right width?
Well, you can drop me an email and I can get in touch with Dexter to make sure.
We can, but it's much broader than that. I don't want to, I want them to have it in, I want it into y'all's process that y'all are checking their plan or something. You see what I'm saying? I can't, as a city of Kingsport, know everything that TDOT's got and when it is and when to tell the right people, hey, check our plan. That's what I want to make sure is that it's built into the program somewhere that it's getting checked.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? Because we ran into this once before on a bridge. It was a rehab project, so the city didn't even know the project was happening until it was let. And it was too late at that time to add the sidewalk that we were in the process of building up to and around the area. So we just want to make sure that we are communicating and making sure that the planners on both sides know what each other's doing, just like you said. So anything we can do to help that process would be great. So maybe that GIS file in this day and age is that best thing that shows that there's a plan. One of these plans has something planned for it. Go look at it. I don't know.
I have experience like where we went in and we were gonna widen the bridge and we're doing the bridge work and stuff. And multimodal will call up and they'll say, do we have a plan? You know, and so then I'll check with the municipality. Sometimes they'll say, it looks like there's a worn path leading up to this bridge. We want to make sure we make it wide enough if they are walking there. So there's different people know some things, but I know what you're saying, and I'll check with Dexter to see what's the best way to make sure that everything's being looked at ahead of time.
Yeah, it seems like if there was a statewide repository, of every MPO and local GIS data on any adopted plans, then that could just be something that multimodal reviewers click on or whatever.
Multimodal, they're pretty streamlined in that multimodal looks at every project and they have a copy of our current plan. They'll get a copy of the new plan. So they're
What's the
checking
checklist on that grant application?
Yeah, they're checking it. It's just I want to make sure that the long range plan is being looked at as well when they're going to do smaller projects.
Yeah, it seems like when the local government requests the grant, there's checkups for that.
There's a.
But when TDOT initiates the project, is what you're saying.
You're right, there's not the same checklist. That's a good way of saying it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let me check with, Dexter, and then, if Troy needs to, talk to Paul.
Yeah, it's just, I don't even think it's a Paul conversation. It's probably us. There may be something we're missing that we're not doing. I just don't want to take a chance. That's why I'm just asking.
Yeah, okay.
That's been years ago that happened, so.
And kind of commenting on that, for the big picture broader, switch to paintbrush, what VDOT has done, and a couple of, Blake has mentioned it a couple times, and I just pitched it over to Corey to talk about Project Pipeline, and the grand scheme of things kind of addresses exactly what you all are talking about. So I'll turn it over to him.
Yeah, so Project Pipeline is new, I mean, it's all in terms of what all is going to be accomplished, but it's just a long-term planning process to look at trouble areas, make sure everybody has a chance to provide their input. So we're actually going to have their next work group session in September, bringing everybody in on the table pretty much to talk about each of the locations that are identified throughout the district. So it's just another way to bring everybody to the table and make sure everybody's on the same page. Obviously, Tennessee and Virginia are a little different kind of handle their approach. So I don't know how much the apples to apples, but it's kind of piggybacking on the old stars process. Y'all familiar with that?
And ultimately, if there was a perfect scenario, it would be everybody from Amber and Rhonda both sitting at their computers thinking of a project that could happen at a place, go to the same website and click it, be like, hey, there's 15 places, studies, documents that this segment, this right away, whatever it is, this termini has been identified somewhere. So something to think about. Leslie, you got a couple of updates for us, please? You can turn that thing around to you too.
They can hear me.
Oh, they can hear you.
Long-range plan consultant is wanting to have a workshop just virtually, and they're looking at September 30th or October 1st. I'm going to send out a doodle poll. It'll have a 2-hour block. They expect it to last an hour and a half. It'll be for the executive board members just to go through the project scoring criteria, what's popped up, how stuff is scored. So look for that doodle poll from me tomorrow. And if your 9:30 and 10:01 is open right now, block it off. So we can get everybody together, just to meet, like I said, virtually. And there won't be anything to vote on, so it's not a meeting, it's just a workshop, just for them to go over the scoring criteria and stuff.
That's the same date as the Tennessee Bike and Summit.
Okay, I'll look. I've gotten those emails. I haven't signed up for it, but I'll look and see when that is. And see. Is there any project updates anybody wants? I know we just had a meeting a month ago, so I didn't expect any.
I would just say from VDOT's end, there's no real updates other than small scale advancement. So look at that, the folks on our side, pre-applications for the next year.
And we will be in Nashville next week. They have is it the quarterly coordination, VDOT, DRPT, OIP. So we will not be on that one because we'll all be in Nashville.
Okay.
So.
Those of you that haven't heard, the city did get the grant for the bridge, Fair Park Bridge, Main Street, got that grant, $1.8 million. So a lot of hard work behind that, but we got it. City got it.
And I don't know if did we know before last meeting that we got the multimodal grant in Colonial Heights for the sidewalk? We did, so we got that one as well. So the multimodal grant for the sidewalks on the, let's call it the east side of 36 between Lebanon Road. I'm losing the name of the road when it crosses. It's not Lebanon, but when it crosses
Colonial Heights Road.
Colonial Heights Road to Lakeside. Is that the name? Right there at Ingles.
Nice.
Fill in all the gaps there.
That's good.
And TDOT has graciously offered to manage that program because never done this before, taking a multimodal grant. This is the first time they've done this, is because they have the paving project scheduled for I can't remember now if it's 22 or 23 this fiscal year. So they've offered to manage that, to do those at the same time. Of course, we jumped on that. So.
Good job. Thank you.
Hope your NEPA process goes faster than mine.
I would say, and I don't know how it is in Virginia, but in Tennessee, the NEPA process is killing us on every project. We've had paving projects that have been delayed over 6 months. Can't get out of NEPA, and it's a repaving project. It's awful right now. I don't know why it's bad. I don't know if it's a staffing issue or what, or if it's just the sheer volume of projects that's in the pipeline. I can't answer why. It's holding us back on everything we're doing right now.
Well, it snowballs for TDOT too, as far as, every year they award more grants and they haven't moved this pack along, and NEPA they just keep adding, and then it's.
And their pipeline's full. I don't know. I've not talked to anybody in the execution or the planning, or the consultants. I don't know anybody that's not got more work than they can do. I'm sorry, Randy. There's always room for one more projects in there.
It is.
Strike that from the record.
Yeah.
It's
It's because we can't get off the NEPA process, so mine's just on hold with that.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I've got a couple of them.
Well, Allen Road, Level sidewalk. Those are just.
What about your roundabout?
That's what we're talking about.
Same thing.
Yeah, it's in Bristol's MPO, but my problem is it's in a state archaeological site level because it's the Battle of Lumble site, which we knew, and we had already done an archaeological survey under a federal grant in 2010. Same corridor. Actually, the first archaeological survey was a lot more in depth, and TDOT halted the NEPA process till we did another archaeological survey, and they used the exact same consulting firm. And all they did was the shovel test that they took along Highway 126. Oh, here's where we did in 2010. Let's just go 2 more feet and do another shovel test. Great report, lovely historical account.
Exploration dates on
No, they said it was project specific. So that cost me a year. Same firm, New South and Associates, great guys. Highly recommend them.
Good job.
Yeah, they do great work.
It's good work. Yeah.
That's tax dollar. That is an absolute complete
Waste of.
waste. Nothing new is.
Metal detection.
Sure, they do that, but they did it in 2010 and nothing has, we received nothing.
Nothing historical has happened since 2010.
No. Well, yeah, oh, Preston responded. I went to the big cheese, but
Any other requests for project updates? Moving right along to agenda item number 8, public comments. Do we have anybody from the public to give comments? Hearing none, last item, meeting adjournment. I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
A motion and a second. We need to do a roll call for adjournment. All approved by proclamation. Good. Thank you all. Appreciate it. Have a wonderful rest of the day. Happy holiday week.
Go long.
They say it needs to be within 1 mile.
Oh, okay, that's good
Do
to
what?
know.
Well, if they can't win that game, they just need to quit.
They are looking at, right, we're looking at